The final heat of FNCS Major 2 is officially over. I'm going to break down the whole tournament for you in this video, but let's start off by talking about MrSavage. He had a bit of a tournament to forget. Now, of course, he was playing with his new duo Trooly, and it's fair to say that their lack of experience was pretty evident. From taking a look at their match history, it is incredibly clear what their issue was. They made the top 25 in every single match, meaning their early game and mid game were working to an extent. The issue was they simply weren't getting deep into the end games, and there's a lot of reasons for that. They were late on rotates, they were getting pre-edited a lot, they weren't proactive enough. It just felt like they were always a step behind during the end game. They just weren't, they weren't as aware as some of the other duos around them, and that to me does suggest a potential lack of preparation. It did just feel like they were making it to the end game and then things were just falling apart at the exact same moment in every single match. Now, there was some criticism of their off-spawn strategy. They were landing over at Shaken Sanctuary and they were quite passive. They had two teams landing to the west of them. One of them was trying to claim some of their loot. So Savage and Trooly were kind of getting penned into the inside underground area of the POI, which wasn't the most interesting gameplay to watch. There was one match where the zone literally pulled right on their heads, so they stayed in Shaken Sanctuary for virtually the entire game, which, yes, it's not the most interesting to watch, but I also don't think that's the principal reason why they struggled. Their biggest issue was getting deep into the end games. And you can make the argument that one of the reasons why they struggled in the end game was because they were coming in with not so many materials. They were consistently below surge. They didn't have great loot, and you can attribute that to the mid game, but I would be more inclined to say that it was their rotations. It was some of their decision making after the mid game period of the match that ultimately led to them struggling. But yeah, I think overall we just wanted to see a little bit more from Savage, a bit more firepower, a bit more ambition, a bit more just urgency in the end games maybe. I know him and Trooly are a new duo, so you do have to temper your expectations a little bit, but from what they showed us in the Div Cups, I did expect a little bit more from them, and yeah, they just weren't good enough all round. Now, they are actually going to stick together for the last chance qualifier. Of course, they do still have that round to qualify for FNCS, so their season isn't over just yet. And could Savage make it? I mean, if he improves in the next few days, it could be on the cards, but with some of the big names that will be participating in that round, it's going to be pretty tough. Now, from a duo that got criticised for their lack of aggression to a player that had a ridiculous output during this tournament, it's time to talk about Ghost, because this could be the season of the new up-and-coming European prospects. We had Rax popping off in Heat 2, Shark did crazy in Heat 1. It does feel like this could be the time for young European players to make their mark on Fortnite, and Ghost is no exception. He is someone that has been highly rated for a while. He did qualify for the Summit LAN, and yes, he didn't place too high there, but it's always been evident that he's got a lot of raw talent. Of course, he plays on Greek ping, probably about 50 ping, which makes his achievement during this heat even more impressive. He had the most damage, the second most eliminations. He was on fire during this cup, and if he can carry this form into grand finals, then him and Pink could actually do really well. I know they're a relatively new duo, but Ghost is just ridiculous when it comes to his firepower, when it comes to his output. Honestly, this did feel like a proper breakout performance for him. I know we all know about him already. I know he's not an unknown quantity, but it really felt like he announced himself to the world with this performance. Ping and Ghost came first for consistency, and it's only fair that I talk about the team that came second for consistency, which was Zarbi and Wolvax. And Wolvax also had a ridiculously good tournament from an individual standpoint. He had the most eliminations, he had the second most damage. Yes, he is by no means a top prospect, but I do think he deserves some credit because this was a really impressive showing from him as well. Now, from young prospects to veteran pros, it's time to talk about Setty. Is he on the way out? Setty's been put in a similar situation to the likes of Tayson, Mursash, Vanya, someone that did really well at the last Globals. Of course, he came third with Panzer and Yapko, but since then, he has failed to build on that whatsoever. He was disappointing in the last FNCS with Rax, and now he has failed to qualify through this heat alongside his teammate of Combeck, and he just also never really got going. I'm afraid it is as simple as that. Setty is someone that is getting older. He's actually engaged. It does seem like he's settling down, and questions do have to be asked about his future. Is he someone that is going to continue playing the game at the highest level? Potentially, we all need to accept that he's in the twilight of his career, and we need to temper our expectations accordingly. However, then again, this was the narrative last year. A lot of people people were criticising Setty when he split from Cammy, and he proved all the doubters wrong by qualifying for Globals and then finishing third there. So we know that Setty has ability in him, that's not in doubt. It's fair to say that that's not been on show during 2026, but never rule him out. The last chance major is still to come after this FNCS. There is still an opportunity to qualify for Globals, and could Setty prove us all wrong once again? It could be on the cards. But if you're a Polish Fortnite fan, then don't worry, I do have good news for you. This heat was a great showing from the Polish players. We had Fredoxie and Seren qualify. They have made a real comeback over the past week or so. They have been struggling a little bit. They started the chapter very brightly, but then they didn't qualify for the Summitland, and their placements did suffer after that. It does seem like they have now come back. I reached out to Seren to ask him what their secret was, how they've been able to return to form, and he stated that it's because they've improved their chemistry, their synergy, they're playing together as a unit better, perfecting their double smacks, pre-edits, and that is the crucial thing with these duos. You can't play as two individuals. We see that a lot where teams are getting separated during the end games. They're not even doing the same thing. The best duos are the ones that think alike, that have that sort of telepathic communication. Sky and Scroll have always been the best example of that, but Fredoxie and Seren proving that they do still have some quality, so fair play to them. We will be seeing them in the finals. A little bit of controversy because they're landing at Vidil and Juice mid-map split alongside Dinas and Franek, so Vidil will have to negotiate two Polish duos at his split, which could get a little bit messy, let's just say. We did also have some other Polish teams make it. Fyron and Pix qualified. This is a team that I am pretty excited about as well, another relatively new duo. Pix has found it incredibly difficult to stick with a teammate since duos was announced. Of course, he did great in trios with Dam and Dimash, but since then he's just been bouncing between so many different players. Will he now just stick with Fyron? Can they get some results on the board? It does remain to be seen, but this heat was a very good sign. Now, if you've watched my Heat 2 video, you'll know that UK Fortnite is officially back, and this heat was more evidence of that. We had Velo and Zynox, the UK duo, winning game one. It was one and done for them. Both of these players will now be playing in their first ever FNCS Grand Finals. Of course, Velo did make the Summitland, but that was without ever making an FNCS Grands because he qualified through the second chance qualifier. So fair play to these guys. It was very, very impressive. They did look quite dominant from Frosted Flats, and they do have an uncon spot for these Grand Finals. And of course, shout out to my boy Coach Frostbite for giving them the advice to get them to that level. A very good showing from them. We also had the reigning Divisional Cup champions qualify. Nebs and Nathan did make it. It wasn't the most convincing performance. They finished in 14th place, so qualifying pretty narrowly. They were actually uncontested at their mid-map split, which is pretty unusual for them. They're used to being conned. In the Divisional Cup that they won, they were contested for every single game, so maybe it took some getting used to not having to do that fight off spawn. Interestingly though, in the FNCS Grands, they will be contested by Godoy and Polo, who are the Spanish duo that they were consistently besting during the run of Divisional Cups this season. So I do think Nebs and Nathan should be fine. It wasn't the craziest performance, but they did get over the line. We did have one other UK duo qualify as well, I should say a UK player. It was Zestful with his Danish teammate of Supereye. Definitely a really surprising pick. I don't think anyone had them on their list, but they were able to win one of the games, and we will be seeing them in the finals. Now, I'll take a look at the Grand Finals map fully in just a moment, but I do need to talk about the Fredoxie problem. Fredoxie has left 3 POIs so far this season. He's left Lifty Lodge when he was contesting Vico and Malabuka, he's left Cluster Coast when he was contesting Podesai and Sato, and now he's also left Wonkyland before even fighting there when he was trying to contest Hutty and Fishix. A year ago, this would have been unthinkable. Fredoxie had such an elite reputation as an off-spawn player, and it's fair to say that that has kind of diminished a little bit. Right now, he is going to be contesting Cringe and Volko at the split west of Shaken Sanctuary for FNCS Grand Finals, which I really don't understand. That whole area is pretty poor, especially if you're contesting. You're not going to be able to get a good result from doing that. So I just feel like he may as well contest Cluster Coast, he may as well contest Podesai. If he's going to have to fight someone, then fight at a POI where you can actually do well from. But yeah, Fredoxie's in a bit of a situation here. He's going to have to contest someone no matter what he does. He's not going to get an uncon spot, so I don't think the future is too bright for him and Marius. So now let's go through the other duos that qualified. We had 3 other game winners. They were Twek and Mydro, Acer and Turtle, and Tiddy and Yulla. Tiddy had 8 eliminations in that final match. Really impressive from him. In terms of the other duos that made it, we had Hutty and Fishix. Chap and Flixie also got through. Not the most dominant performance performance from them, but they did get the job done. Eyedrop and Gonzo are in as well, as are the Danish duo of Hellfire and Wimper. And finally, Cheating and Giras sneaking into that final spot. Fair play to all of these teams. And in terms of the other big names that didn't qualify through, I'll throw up a list on screen for you now. There weren't as many shocks in this heat as compared to the other two, but Alba and Xenox did fail to qualify. Alba is of course the best female pro in the world, so it would have been great to see her in the grand finals, but it just wasn't to be on this occasion. We also had Izzy and Nosif not qualify. They were contested, to be fair to them, but I was hoping they could make the best of it. Of course, they qualified for the EWC LAN, so it would have been nice to have seen them in grands. Nosif now still has not made an FNCS Grand Finals, despite the fact he qualified for the Summit LAN and he's going to be in the EWC LAN, so that's a pretty interesting quirk. Now, looking at the map for Grand Finals, I do think we are going to get a very competitive lobby. A lot of the big duos are Uncon, I'm talking Shark and Teeny, Sky and Scroll, Chino and Pablo, Vico and Malabuka. Thomas and Focus are currently contested, but that could change, so it should be a pretty stacked finals. In terms of some of the dynamics, the fact that the split to the east of Lifty Lodge is contested could be very good for Vico and Malabuka. They might be able to clean up the off-spawn fights, get some easy eliminations that could work out very well for them. Taking a look at some other interesting stuff, we can see that Swizzy and Pixie are currently contested. Whether they split the POI, whether they try and fight, it does remain to be seen. Of course, I mentioned the Vidal mid-map situation, which could get messy. Other than that though, it isn't looking too crazy. There will still be 5 teams to come in from the last chance qualifier round, and that is when the map is going to look a bit more congested. And speaking of the last chance qualifier, we do have some new duos for that round, one of them being Mongraal and Zany. Now, Zany is a Danish player who was previously playing with Burke, and it will be interesting to see how they work out. They are going to be coached by Sky and Scroll, so that could very much help them. I'm not holding out hope for them qualifying just because there's a lot of other really solid duos in this round, and Mongraal hasn't shown a lot over the past few months, but you never know. He's giving himself a fighting chance, and I do hope he performs well. We also have Dexy now playing with Faded Pigeon, and Zangi is now playing with Apple. So some interesting new duos for this round. Listen, that is going to do it for the video. Please subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with European Fortnite news. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one.